What's up, my people? Welcome back to Vertical Football. Welcome back to another episode of the Manchester United Fans Corner. I'm your host, Shegun. And guys, it's Monday. It's time to discuss Manchester United. A lot of talking points. We need to talk about a lot of things. First and foremost, we are happy about the victory against Crystal Palace yesterday. Tough game, intense game, as we analyzed. It's good to see that the players dug deep, the players showed mentality, the players showed fight, they showed bites, and ultimately we got that very vital away win. That's like our second away win this season after the Liverpool game. I think it was very, very amazing to see, and we hope that it continues. We really hope that it continues. Now, let's talk about certain things. I think first and foremost, one of the things we want to discuss today is off of the statement that Amorim made after the defeat to Everton, where he said certain moments after the red card to Everton, there are certain moments when we're playing against a very solid low block, in Everton's low block, that we at most certain moments wanted or it would have been nice if we had a right-footed Amad Diallo on the left wing back to create a lot of issues on the wings, right? So, and when he made that statement, a lot of buzz has been going on social media about players that we have to look at. Right-footed wingers that we have to look at that can play that position as a left wing back. And so, two names have been mentioned, and those two names, we want to look into them. As usual, what we do, we look into what they bring, what are their profiles, what they bring, what are we looking for, what is that position? What does that position entail? And then we try to join two of them together. Do they fit into what we're looking for? Because it's not just about how special a player is, It's about, does that player fit into what we want to do, right? That's very, very important for us. And so the second thing we will be discussing, which I think I'll just jump right into it, is talking about the common misconceptions about Ruben Amorim's 3-4-2-1 formation and why the misconceptions still remain. It's shocking. For me, it's shocking because in my own view, after the number of years I've been watching this beautiful game, after the number of years I've tried to, not just watch the game as we all watch the game, but as we all try to know deeper about the game, the tactics, the systems, the approaches that managers use in different phases of play, I've come to see that there has not been any manager that in my own view, that has received so much criticism, relentless criticism about how he wants to play than the way Ruben Amorim has been attacked and the way he has been criticized. People, legends, tacticians, analysts have come out to criticize the way he wants to play in his 3-4-2-1 system at Manchester United. People have said a lot of things. And sometimes when I look at what they are saying about the system, in as much as I get the point, sometimes I disagree. I disagree because I personally, when I listen to Ruben Amorim, when I also do my own analysis of watching the game and try to see what he wants to do, I see that it's as if many of us, including myself, might not have even understood perfectly what this man's system is all about, right? What this man's system is all about. Maybe we have not understood it. Clearly, for some, they've not understood it. But when we have this issue and we have a body, like, for example, Sky Sports, and I know that Sky Sports, has this a show where they go and meet managers, they bring a tactical board and say, give us an idea into what your tactics is all about. Because this season alone, I watched Iraola for Bournemouth. I watched his explanation of his system, explanation of even the 2010 World Cup, the Spain. I watched how he analyzed that, right? And I was like, I enjoyed that episode. I've seen also Enzo Maresca being approached on that show to explain his own tactics and his own system. Recently, Oliver Glasner was brought on the show to explain his own tactics and system. But my question now is, and this is not an indictment on Sky Sports or the likes or any other big media company, but the fact is, the most contested, the most argued about system currently in the Premier League is the Ruben Amorim 3-4-2-1 system. Why have we not yet gotten an episode on that system? It could be that they have made the approach to United and Amorim, and maybe it was rejected, or maybe it's in the works, or they have not made the approach at all. But the question is, we've seen, at least I am aware of 3, Iraola, Glasner, and Maresca. Why are we not seeing the most contested, the most argued about system, in the Premier League currently? Why have we not seen that? So this is my first question, because the misconceptions keep happening. And I remember, why am I saying this? I remember I said it on this show that it is not a coincidence when you understand the way Amorim wants to play. It's not a coincidence that Ahmad plays where he plays as a right wing back. I said it many times. It's not also a coincidence, especially you see against Crystal Palace, you saw against Brighton, you saw against Sunderland, you saw against Liverpool. It's not a coincidence that Amorim uses inverted footed wing backs. It's not that it's something that is just happened. It's a strategy. What do I mean? For those who have watched us for long, we understand that a left wing back that uses a right foot and a right wing back that uses a left foot. Ahmad uses a left foot, plays right wing back. Dalot occupies that left wing back position, but it's a right footer. So it's not a coincidence. It's not a mistake. It's part of the system. It's part of the dynamics that can be brought into the system, right? And then when Amorim now mentions it after the loss to Everton, that he needs, a right-footed Amad Diallo on the left, you can see that it's not maybe that's the system. And I think many people have not really understood that this is dynamics that can come into the system. So let's go into areas of this system that have been misunderstood. I've explained one in terms of the wing backs. People think Ahmad playing in that right wing back position is just for now. It's just because maybe Man United have not bought players, and the fact is, it is part of the system. It's part of what Amorim wants to do. It's not as if they have not bought players. They can buy many players and it will still remain that way. And that's why I think that's why we did the video on Yakuba Minte. That Yakuba Minte also will help us in that area because we know exactly what Amorim wants. Also, areas or positions where there have been misconceptions is the 2 inside forwards. I think there have been a lot of misconceptions. Maybe the misconception arises from the fact that we call them the 2 number 10s. And then people now think that, they call them the 2 number 10s. Why is Bruno Fernandes not playing there? And I think I analyzed in the tactical board that for someone as creative as Bruno Fernandes, it is better for Bruno Fernandes to play where he currently plays, where the 2 inside forwards with the striker can be in front of him where he can create for them. And that's what I said. Because when you look at people that play this system, 3-4-2-1 system, they use inside forwards, right? Look at, I think the Conte system. I think was it the Conte system that won the Premier League. He had Hazard, right? He had Pedro, right? He had Hazard, he had Pedro. Look at Oliver Glasner, right? Oliver Glasner system, at least for most parts, they use Yeremy Pino and they use Sarr. These guys are not, they are not number 10s, as you would call them. These guys are inside forwards. You look at, for example, a time where they were using Mount, they were using sometimes Ziyech in those areas in Chelsea. So when you look at these things, you understand that there has been a big misconceptions about the 2 inside forwards. And people think that when we call them the 2 number 10s, we are literally talking about traditional number 10s. There is a dynamic of play that makes them now become 2 number 10s, which I think we saw against Everton, right? And the dynamics is for as long as they play outside, edge and outside of the box, they are inside forward. That edge and outside of the box, they're inside forward. But a time comes when you squeeze them in, they become the 2 number 10s, right? And then your wing backs become, as we saw against Everton, they become left winger and right winger, not necessarily wing backs now. So that's a different discussion. But there have been misconceptions about that. People have been maybe deceived by what we call it 2 number 10s and thinking that if it's 2 number 10s, then Bruno should, as I say, number 10 should play there. It's not that he cannot play there, but most managers and the way the system has been used, they don't necessarily put their number 10s there. Right? The traditional number 10, they don't necessarily put them there. They put, for example, Deji Kamada plays as one of the two midfielders, right? When you look at what Kamada does, so you see that they use them there. So there are a lot of misconceptions about that. So let me move on to the next one. Another misconception is the fact that the role of the central back is also one that we have not really understood. I think we've analyzed it here, that a time is coming, and I think Ruben Amorim is mentioning it in part in his press conference, how the fact that, Matthias de Ligt as a central back, a time needs to be comfortable on the ball, needs to be able to take decisions, stop decisions on the ball, and ultimately needs to be comfortable pushing into the midfield. And when he pushes into the midfield, he allows the two midfielders or one of the midfielders to play more advanced. So he can either form a double pivot with the existing defensive midfielder while the other CM pushes up, or he can form a single pivot while the two midfielders pushes up. So there's been a misconception about that, right? And when he does that pushing up, he ultimately can take the shape of a 4-3-3 in game, right? Because when he pushes up into the midfield, and the midfielders maybe they push up or one stays behind, then the defense line, because he has been slotted into the midfield, you have a left central back that becomes, the left central back becomes the left central back. You understand? The right central back becomes the right central back, but in a 4-man midfield. In a 4-man defense, in a 4-man defense. And then your central back now becomes like the DM in this case, or a partner, a double pivot with the already existing DM. And someone like Bruno Fernandes now takes a more prominent role in forward as a traditional number 10. And then your two inside forwards can even now become like wingers, right? And then you have your striker. So there are certain movements, linear movements, as we said, that actually changes the shape of this system. So I think there have been mistakes about that. And ultimately, why we are saying this is because there's also been misconceptions about the roles of the wing backs at United. And let me go through some variations of how the wing back can work under Ruben Amorim's 3-4-2-1 system. First and foremost, it can be a traditional wing back orientation or wing back arrangement in terms of, and that's what most people are used to seeing. In terms of people that use wing back, use on the left wing back, they use a left defender. On the right wing back, they use a right defender. Yeah, that is number one. That's what can occur, right? That one is true. That's the traditional one that we are commonly used to. But also, we have a variation, which under Ruben Amorim, which is using inverted-footed wing backs, in the sense of a right footer like Dalot playing as what they call it, a left wing back, a left footer like Amad Diallo playing as a right wing back. And it depends on the opponent and how you want to hurt the opponent, right? Now let's move on. Also, you can see a dynamics which we've seen of left on this side, left on this side. When you use Dogu, you use Amad Diallo, there are different reasons why, which I've explained. And I think I will explain further. And sometimes also, you can also now see a right on this side and a right person on this side. A right-footed wing back on the left, a right-footed wing back on the right variations. I explained to us that one of the reasons why the inverted footed fullback system works is because it allows and makes it easy for whoever is the wing back, Amad on the air, maybe Dalot on the air, to be able to beat the press. So they can position themselves and do a half-turn movement into space and actually pass it into space. Instead of maybe they receive it on their thing. If they are here, they pass it to them and they are right footed. They might just want to pass back. But on the halfway line, for example, if the ball is passed to them and they are right footed on the left, they can turn and even move into space or find various options. So I've explained this, that there are certain variations that occurs when you have this inverted wing back system. And I think there has been a lot of misconceptions. So having said that, let's now go into the two players we want to look at in terms of the right-footed wingers that can play as a left wing back. First person is Semenyo. I know a lot of news have been going on around Semenyo's and Manchester City recently, but also there have been news also going around Semenyo and Manchester United. The fee quoted is 65 million pounds, and there was reports that United were interested in him in the summer, but maybe because of the fee, also some reports said he rejected United. But ultimately he didn't join us. But there have been reports saying also that United wants to go back for him. So let's look at what he brings. As I've explained to us, that there are different variations that occurs when a right-footed winger plays as a left wing back, in terms of ability to beat the press, in terms of ability to also jump into midfield and help out in certain ways. So let's go right into it. First of all, Semenyo is not a new commodity in Premier League football. We know what he adds to a team in terms of the attacking wise. And I feel that for me, some things we see in his game, obviously 1v1, is that player that can take someone 1v1 and actually be a threat. Is someone that when he takes 1v1, he has an opportunity of turning to here and putting a cross in, which is nice, which is really, really nice. And I think that we have not seen from Kunwa. The ability to push as an inside forward, for example, in this system, and turn and cross. We've not seen that enough from Matheus Kunwa. We've not even seen that enough from Mason Mount, right? So if you are getting Semenyo, for example, that's an addition in terms of he can turn and cross. Also, another thing he brings to his game that we can see as an inside forward is the fact that his ability to push to the byline, and cut back. Ability to push, to drive to the byline, drive defenders to the byline, and put a cutback, which is something we need. We need more of that. We need cutbacks, which Kunwa is not doing enough of, and which Mount also is not doing enough of, even though he did one against Everton. So those are the things I'm seeing about his natural game. Now, he is someone that is two-footed in terms of shooting. So he offers us the fact that he can play on the right, he can play on the left. Two-footed in terms of he can use his left to shoot, he can use his right to shoot. And so there's that variation, and he can play anywhere in front, right? He can play anywhere in front. Now, another thing about his game, with respect to the position we're actually analyzing him for, that I see, is that if we want to use Semenyo as a right wing, a left wing back, one of the things that could help him is the fact that he also has this ability to receive ball with his back. Like, he pass the ball to him and he can half turn and move into space. He move into space, and is a player that can move and push with his speed into space, get in front of the box and have a pass, or can do something magic and even take a shot. He's someone that can do that. So he helps us because he gives us that variation. Matheus Kunwa can do it. I've seen him do it, but I believe Semenyo can do it much more better. If you look at our existing wing backs, nobody does it. When Dalot is even played in that position as a left wing back, as a right footer, he doesn't push in through that way like that. He doesn't. So all he does is see that linear movement. But when you have someone like Semenyo that can receive and drive into space, drive into the space. So I receive from here. He don't want me to go straight. I can just receive and push in diagonally into space. It's a good thing. So it's a good thing. So, but one thing I say about this game, for me, I won't be really, really pleased with him playing as a left wing back. Is the fact that whenever I watch him and analyze him, I feel he's someone that will benefit also from a runner behind him running off the ball. That's for Semenyo. Whenever I see him, I'm like, when he makes that move, for example, now he makes that move into the space, you pass the ball to him, he does the half turn, move into space as a wing back. You need somebody behind him, run that shadow run that can receive the ball. So when he drives people in terms of his movement into space, you need someone that is there free tactically that will receive the ball. And so when you use him as a wing back, I'm like, so who now fills that role? Who now fills that role? So for me, I'm skeptical about, what he can, a fantastic player, but, There are questions. There are questions. When I look at it, I see there are questions. And I think that's the question we need to ask ourselves. So fantastic player, his activity in the danger zones, that's the front of the box 18, is there. As I said, left and right shot is there. Even passes is there. But the fact is, we need to ask about the defensive work rates. And I know that, yes, as a winger, the defensive work rate is looking nice. But also we have to understand that most of the things I've seen about Semenyo is only maybe normal tackles trying to press. But I've not seen him when somebody comes at him as what they will come at as a left wing back. And so there are questions there about how does he survive when somebody comes, at him. I know Ahmad had to also improve in that. So even if Semenyo is going to come and he decides to play there, there's also going to be that development that needs to occur in his game in terms of when a winger, or right back or the opponent is coming directly at him, his defensive work. Also, we need to also talk about the fact that when a cross comes from the other side, how does he deal with the cross? So there are questions about him that, but I know the scouting department will look deeply into it, but these are questions in terms of, I know attacking wise, it makes sense. But defensive wise, we have to ask questions. I know, yes, defensive wise, you can say, well, he can adapt like Ahmad, but even in Ahmad's game, there are still deficiencies, right? There are still deficiencies, right? So we need to look at it. It's also in terms of when is attacked by a right back or a right winger, how does he survive in terms of dealing with the defensive part of the work? And also, crosses also is a question. But as I've said many times, that the use of wingers as wing backs in this system, the beauty will come out more when we as a team hold the ball better, when we control the game better, when we don't lose balls so much and do a lot of turnovers, right? Because if we don't lose the balls too much, if we don't do a lot of turnovers, right, it will help the wing backs that are wingers, to have more time doing what they love best, which is attacking. But in a case where we are losing the ball too much, they have more defensive work to do, which really would get them tired. Because see, Ahmad, sometimes the way he goes back is adapting, but we need to get better as a team to ensure that they don't have to do more of that running back. They enjoy what they do, they cause havoc while pushing up. So those are the things. So and lastly, I would say is the fact that when you look at Semenyo's game, and what Amorim said about looking for a right-footed Amad Diallo, I think it helps because when you are becoming a more mature team, you begin to face a lot of low blocks, right? When you become a more dominant team, people that want to sit up back and maybe hit on the counter attack and everything. And sometimes when the low block is existing, like against Everton it existed, you will, it will be a very beautiful thing to have your inside forward tucking into that danger zone, to tuck in and try to find spaces there and do some danger. But also it will be nice also to see, your wing backs become like wingers on the right or on the left, Ahmad, and maybe Semenyo on the left, to stretch and to create. Because when you look at it, and then when you see it, even against Everton, even against Crystal Palace at a certain moment, because Crystal Palace obviously was using a 5 in the back, sometimes the penetrativeness, as I analyzed, was coming from here, but sometimes it wasn't coming from the other side. But imagine if it was a dangerous winger like Semenyo there, for example, he can cause some movement, push in and maybe cut back, or even cross dangerously into the box, and we can get something from there. So it's also good because it stretches the defense well. When you have wingers at the edge, you have 2 number 10s inside. And maybe your centre back has moved into the midfield, you have 2 at the back, and then your midfielders are also high up. It helps in the dynamics of that play. So I think for me, my verdict for Semenyo will be, if United decides to go for him, I believe he will serve us more as an inside forward, really. But also I understand that there are certain games, depending on the opponent, also you can use him as a left wing back. But when I see his game, especially the fact that the movements he makes, you always want somebody off him. I just feel it will make him more. He's a player that can take people off their position and create space for the wing back to push and do damage. And I think it will not be a bad thing also for him to play the wing back. But I just feel for that talent, I feel it will be better as one of our inside forward. And for example, look at it. If we go get to Europe, you need squad depth. You need variations. Kunwa is out injured. We struggled. Imagine the Semenyo was around. Will give us that same quality, that same dynamic. So let's go to the second person we want to look at. A lot of similarities in them. A lot of similarities in their play. So many of the things I'll be mentioning are things that I've mentioned before. But I think it's just good for us to talk about it. Ndiaye. I think Ndiaye, for me, the differences he has is that in tight spaces, in the silkiness, the quick feet, the skill, that's movements. No, that like an ocean movement. It helps him in tight spaces. He's someone that is difficult to dispossess. That's Ndiaye. This is someone that also has that half turn that I said on the central line. You give him the ball, he can push it half turn. But I think one thing about him, when I see Ndiaye's half turn into the space, into the midfield, I feel he's someone that, as a manager, I can definitely use Ndiaye because I know he has this in his game already. In terms of as a midfielder, he can also do something as attacking midfielder and maybe left midfielder. But I think he's someone that also would be a very good use as a manager to create overloads in the midfield. I think it's just someone that would be nice, someone that can come, even if he plays as an inside forward, can come back to enter inside the midfield, and do some work there. It's someone that can also play on the left, play on the right. So that variation, I really like about his game, and the fact that difficult to dispossess, very skillful, has the right movement. Is a player that gives your team this kind of silky balance to the play, enters the midfield and do a lot of things. But even though I know that when he enters the midfield, there's any part of his game he needs to improve upon in terms of his passes, in terms of his switch of play passes, the long passes to the other side, needs to get better in his game. But I think he can help a manager to create overloads. Drive into spaces, is someone that also has the cutbacks, right? Someone that can also do the cutbacks, tell him do the cutbacks. Someone that can also work on the crosses in, right? So it gives us a lot of what we look at Semenyo can give. But obviously, Semenyo is at a much higher, much refined level. But Ndiaye is also decent. And so when I look at these two players, I'm like, the same questions here arise in the sense of crosses, in the sense of defensive work. Because for now, United is not yet there. Even Ahmad is doing a lot of work coming back, right? And also, we are not yet there. We're not yet there. We need people that can also be very, very decent defensively, right? Defend defensively. Also decent in terms of dealing with area balls, right? Because teams cross in Premier League now, obviously. And so we need people that can also deal with those crosses well. But also, the fact is, in our progression as a team, and the way Amorim is trying to approach this game, obviously at a point is going to come where we are dominant, we are placing the team that is a lesser team, we will be having wingers as our wing backs, and then we go full force to hit them and try to destroy their low block, right? Also in certain situations like maybe Everton, you can have variations in terms of, okay, they are playing against a low block. We want to break them down, we want to attack them, and we can use those wing backs. But I think currently now, even if we get one of these guys in, it should just be the day we don't use Ahmad, we have a variation of attacking the other side by using maybe Ndiaye or using Semenyo. So guys, these are my opinions on the two players and looking at that position. There are questions, but also the fact is that even when Ahmad started there were questions. But the fact is, how well are they willing to sacrifice and play in those positions? Because we've seen wingers also that play there and play there very well. How willing are they to adapt to play there? But also, for these two players we've mentioned, Semenyo and Ndiaye, if one ends up working, they can also play as inside forwards and give us variations, right? The skills give us variations in front of the danger zone, give us variations in terms of in the wings, in cutbacks, in crosses, as I said for Semenyo. So and even Ndiaye can give us those things, and it will be like amazing to see, because we also need variations of how we attack in those places. So guys, these are my opinions on these players. Let me have your opinions. What do you think I've said that you don't agree with? What do you think I've said that you agree with? Let's have that discussion in the comment section. Thank you for sticking with us. Don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe, and most importantly, don't forget to share. Until I see you next time. Bye.